As you may or may not have seen, all of my senses have recently been assaulted by a very bad game to the point that I desperately needed a palate cleanser to remind myself why I even like video games. And I had a few options. I could play a grounded story game, a classic horror, an endlessly replayable roguelike, but to truly get the taste of dead-eyed vinyl trash out of my mouth, I needed something nearly flawless. And the first game that comes to my mind when I'm asked to think of a flawless game is Super Mario Odyssey. So let's see how Odyssey holds up after 7 years in this spoiler review. I don't blame you if you didn't notice this, it's pretty subtle, but Mario Odyssey looks a bit different compared to the other games in this series. Only eagle-eyed fans will notice how there's a realistic-looking dragon on screen, or how Mario is interacting with a normal-ass dude. Super Mario Odyssey is a very odd clash of styles, but despite how different everything is in this game, nothing feels out of place because they've added little details you may not have noticed to make that transition smoother. It's much easier to see what I'm talking about on the realistic side of things. This does not look like this does not look like this, and despite the fact that they put the Chrysler building in the game, this does not look like this. Everything that's supposed to be realistic isn't emulating the real world, but the real world in a Mario style. But the classic cartoonish Mario style pulls its weight too, with things like scratches and chipped paint on the green pipes and the beautifully rendered water which help tie the two visual styles together into something no other Mario game has done before. And those little details aren't just there for cohesion's sake. I feel like there is no missed opportunity in the details throughout the kingdoms and the fantastic character designs. There are rainbows in the water vapor. In Cascade, there are fossils of Goombas from the 8-bit era. The wedding cake has a little Bowser cake topper. Bowser combed his hair for his wedding. This one I'm not a fan of, but look at how cute Magma Mario is. He's making my maternal instincts kick in. The most important part of this game's visual style, though, is right there in the name. Super Mario Odyssey. Not only is this the best subtitle they could have chosen, but going on this journey and seeing what's next in store for you and what else they've adapted into this mix of styles is such a treat, especially since each kingdom has new beautiful music that'll get stuck in your head. Every kingdom is so exciting and unique that you can't wait to see what crazy idea is next, but you don't quite want to leave the one you're in just yet. But the visuals do have one of my biggest problems with this game, and that is the Luncheon Kingdom. You may disagree, this is a very subjective problem to have, but it is so fucking ugly. Everything is so bright and shiny, and all the colors are practically neon with how oversaturated they are. But even if it didn't burn my retinas, it definitely seems like the most out of place. Out of every kingdom in this game, Luncheon is the one I could see fitting best into a more standard Mario game like the new series or 3D Land. And while we're here, we may as well talk about the rest of the flaws this game has, which are mainly the boss fights. I think the worst boss in this game is probably the flower machine from the Wooded Kingdom, as it isn't necessarily not fun, but it's just the least fun in this game. Capturing and using the uproot for this fight probably looked a lot better on paper when you don't think about how unbelievably slow it is. And I have to say, the squid fight in Seaside Kingdom is a bit of a letdown as you don't really do anything creative to damage it, you just jump on its head. And my expectations were already high because it has a very similar design to King Caliente, my favorite boss from Super Mario Galaxy. But the biggest problem with the boss fights is just how damn good they are. This game was developed by DJ Khaled, it is suffering from success. The Brutals have some of my favorite character designs in this whole game. They talk like 1940s gangsters, and unlike the Koopa Kids, their fights are creative and not just carbon copies of each other. The bird fight is hilarious and based on actual platforming ability. The dragon fight has an unbelievable sense of scale. Using Bowser's own stupid boxing glove hat against him is so satisfying, mainly because of the haptic feedback. And Knuckle-Tech is my favorite boss fight in this game, mainly because of the lead up. The whole time you work your way up to his boss fight, the game has you capturing and controlling bullet bills to prepare you for controlling his fist so you can damage him. These boss fights are immaculate. So why the fuck are they 3 minutes long? The boss fights are like a box of the most divine chocolates you've ever tasted. But the box only has one of each kind. And the only way to get another is to go through the whole box again, or finish the box and then go to the mushroom box where you eat the chocolate, but it's harder this time. Okay, this analogy isn't perfect, but you get what I'm saying. Why would you make these parts of the game so much fun, but so short and inaccessible? I understand it needs to be easy enough for little Timmy in the 2nd grade to beat it, but come on, dude. To be fair though, that critique isn't the biggest issue in the world. The boss fights are short, but it's not worth only focusing on the icing when there's a whole cake underneath. The actual gameplay is unmatched in the platforming genre. This game controls like a dream. There is a certain Mario game that controls like shit. I'm not gonna say which game it is or what platform it's on. We all know I can't say that. People are gonna come after me. But instead of feeling like I'm Mario, it was like learning how to steer Mario, like I'm learning how to ride a bike or drive a car. It was Mario 64. And after playing a bit of that game and having to steer this plumber, I can't take for granted just how smooth and consistent the movement is in this game, especially once you get the tech down. Like, watch this. I did that. And the biggest reason why I can do things like I just clearly did on my own is Cappy, who, as you can see in my awesome clip, is helpful for movement on top of the already innovative and brilliant capture system. And just when you're completely comfortable with Cappy and his inputs have become second nature, the game says, nope, fuck you and the Odyssey you flew in on, go ahead and play the game without him. My only problem with this is that I wish they took away Cappy for longer or more often in the actual main content. But as good as the movement is, it's not good enough to warrant running across entire kingdoms for a single moon, which is where the checkpoint flags come in. Warping is such a luxury and must have saved me more time than I can even imagine. Another thing I'm glad to see modernized is the complete removal of the live system. There are a few exceptions, but when I see lives in a video game, I say get that shit out of here. It is an outdated and almost never beneficial system, and using the hearts instead with each death punishing you by removing coins is such a good replacement. While we're on replacements, I can't put my finger on why, but I love the switch from stars to moons. The purple coins are a good replacement for star coins from the new series, giving you a new collectible to look out for, and Nintendo made the groundbreaking decision to replace the bad water level that comes standard in every Mario game with a good water level this time. I really want to emphasize this. Practically every single kingdom, sub-area, challenge, 2D section, whatever, every single level, including the water levels, is clearly well put together and has some sort of objective quality, finally peaking at the New Donk City Festival. This celebration of Mario history might be my favorite level in any video game I've ever played. Not only because of how fun it is gameplay-wise, but because of how much passion and joy clearly went into it. And you may be thinking that that's a bad thing. A game shouldn't peak halfway, 2/3 of the way through, and I'd agree with you in any other case. But Mario Odyssey is backloaded. Metro Kingdom is, in my opinion, the best kingdom. But second and third follow right behind, barely dropping in quality. The gameplay is so good that the only other problems I have are nitpicky. And those are that I wish this game had a sprint button because I like to know I'm going as fast as possible in platformers. Right here, after doing these jumps, they moved the moon instead of just giving it to me. And sometimes the OCD in my brain throws a tantrum because I don't come out the same pipe I came in. But now let's talk about why we're playing this game, why we're doing this, and get into the story. So Bowser kidnaps Peach. You're all caught up. Another reason why I decided to play Super Mario Odyssey specifically is because Funko Fusion, like most kids' games, has a shitty story, and that applies here too. The plot to Odyssey is the same as almost every other Mario game, but Funko Fusion has a bad plot in the worst ways possible, and Mario Odyssey has a bad plot in the best way possible. You're not just going through the motions, checking kingdoms off the list and getting through it to get through it. There are actual reasons you're going to these kingdoms. You're chasing Bowser, who himself has reasons. You can't just throw in any kingdom. He's going to Luncheon to pick up the food, Snow to grab the cake, and Wooded to grab the flowers. Every kingdom has a reason, even the twist ones like Clouded and Lost, which I love the reveal of as the cutscene starts during the tip screen, and their inclusion adds more to the build-up to what everyone's dying to get to, New Donk City. And the most important part of the story is the emotions you feel. The most bare-bones version of storytelling is the journey of getting you from one emotion to another. A good example is classical music. And this is probably one of the most important, yet most overlooked parts of video games that plenty of developers get wrong, but Super Mario Odyssey knocks out of the park. Mario gets his ass kicked. It's almost heartbreaking to see his iconic hat get shredded into oblivion. And when he teams up with Cappy, two ideas are subliminally placed in your head. This is something new, and I got work to do. You are clearly not capable of taking on Bowser right now. You gotta get better and better, reflected in the slow restoration of the Odyssey's balloon. Every single kingdom feels warranted and like a milestone once you beat it, with Clouded essentially being that halfway checkpoint flag in the middle of each level, as you can now beat Bowser but not his arsenal. And as you move forward and get that visual mark of progress, it builds and builds until you finally reach the final destination, the moon. This is how you tell a story correctly. You know how I know that? Because traveling all the way to the moon still feels monumental, despite the fact that a decade prior, Mario had an entire game that took place in outer space. And all of this effort across hours of kingdom hopping and boss fights gets paid off in one of the best finales I've ever seen, where you escape and rescue Princess Peach by capturing the big enchilada himself. What a genius ending. To be fair, this ending doesn't hit as hard on replay because you know what's coming. But while I don't remember capturing Bowser for the first time 7 years ago, I absolutely remember the feeling of capturing Bowser for the first time. Starting with the new Super Series, Mario had a rough few years, mainly due to oversaturation, leading to some really solid games like 3D World falling through the cracks. And I am so glad that this game was able to stand its ground and break that trend. I'm not the first to say this, but I won't be the last. This game is a love letter to the Mario franchise that not only celebrates the old, but embraces the new. I'm giving Super Mario Odyssey a 10 out of 10 score, as it's not perfect, but it is absolutely a masterpiece. It's not a big deal considering not many people have seen it, and it was like my second video ever, but after replaying Odyssey, I really regret not putting it in my top 10 video. Maybe if you guys are interested in seeing me redo that video, let me know in the comments below. The biggest question I had going into this game though was whether or not I liked this more than Astrobot, and at this point, I still really don't know. But I will say that no video game has post-game content quite like Odyssey though. This game also doesn't have fucking Knack!